everybody, and welcome to Swinging for the Fences, the official webcast of the Men's Senior Baseball League. My name is Jeff Lowery from APN Video Sports and APNvideo.com. Well, we have a very special guest here today on Swinging for the Fences, a gentleman who started the father-son division of the Men's Senior Baseball League's World Series. He is also a Lifetime Achievement winner, and he's also started the Sacramento Men's Senior Baseball League. And I'm talking about a great baseball fan in Val Lewis. And by the way, he is one of only 11 people that have actually participated in every one of the MSBL World Series, 32 in all. And when we come back on Swinging for the Fences, we'll talk a little baseball with Val Lewis when we return in just a moment. Don't go soft. Play hardball with the Men's Senior Baseball League. For more information on the 2020 Men's Senior Baseball League World Series or any other tournament, go to MSBLNational.com. Reserve any game on video with APN's play-by-play videos. Our videos include complete game coverage in high definition, exciting and professional play-by-play commentary. And here's a line shot. The shortstop's got it. He throws to second. That's a double play. An ESPN-like pregame. And a pleasant good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to Sloan Park in Mesa. Plus, interviews with coaches and players. It's a must for your video library. Live streaming your team's games is now available. Go to apnvideo.com for more. Go to APN Video to reserve any 2020 MSBL World Series game on video with APN. Welcome back to Swinging for the Fences. Very special guest here today, a gentleman that started the father-son division, and a lot of you out there may not know what a father-son division for a men's adult baseball tournament. Well, that's when dads get to play with sons or daughters, and sometimes, Val, sometimes I've seen grandfathers and sons and granddaughters out there. Val, welcome to Swinging for the Fences. Truly a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate being here.
Val, you talk about this father-son. I really think this was one of the best things that Steve Sigler, the gentleman who started the Men's Senior Baseball League, put in place. No doubt about it. Because I think when we talk about baseball, we talk about, and I can remember as a child, my dad taking us down to Riverfront Stadium, enjoying a baseball game with your dad. There's nothing like it. I mean, there truly is. It's all American, and now you've given so many men a chance to bring their sons in and play the game that they love so well. And what was the inspiration in starting the father-son division?
Well, let me start here, Jeff. In fact, I've already played with all four of my sons for the last 22 years, actually. And so far, I've been teammates with 6 grandsons. In 2 more years, if I can hang in there, I'll be a teammate with a granddaughter who is an elite softball player right now at age 14. So I'm looking forward to her qualifying so that we could go down and play together. The whole father-son concept, though, started back in 1937. Sounds like a long time ago, but my dad was a professional ball player in Montana, of all places, and they played barnstorming games, and they earned part of the gate that they took in. The winning team got more than the losing team, so it wasn't pros like you see nowadays. He ended up coming to California to try out for baseball, had an injury and had to stop playing. But he loved baseball and he taught his boys. And my first memories is that he would pitch to us, and both an older brother and myself And he came to us in 1952. Little League was just starting in Sacramento, and he said, he woke us up one morning and said, "You kids want to go to Williamsport, Pennsylvania? There's a World Series that's played there." And we didn't even know what Williamsport, Pennsylvania was, but we joined the first league in Sacramento. There were 4 teams. My brother and I were on the same team. And he was on an all-star team that first year, and you didn't have to win very many games to go to the World Series. And he lost their first game. And then I came along, and I had 2 all-star stints in 1953 and 1954. Got to the Northern California Championship and lost both of those games. And one thing I noticed then, when I was through playing, we had 2 younger brothers that were born, 10 and 12 years younger. And so that dream of Williamsport, Pennsylvania got put off for a number of years. 1965, my youngest brother played in an all-star team in Sacramento. They got to the city championship and lost. And the next year in 1966, with my brother managing the team and my dad coaching the team, they took a team back to Williamsport, Pennsylvania to complete this dream that the family had of going to the Williamsport World Series. They came in 3rd. The only game they lost to in the whole tournament was to the eventual champion team, Houston, Texas. They beat Japan for the 3rd place title. Interestingly enough, 3 years later, with pretty much the same team intact, they won the Senior Little League, a national title. Went undefeated in about 14 games. Went to Gary, Indiana, and won that title. So the family has a history of being involved with baseball. I watched my dad play only one game. It was the softball game, and he hit a ball about 350 feet and pulled a hamstring coming around second base, crawled into third. It's the only time I've ever seen him play. And I always wanted to play with him. And I thought when I started having children that it would be a nice idea if I could end up playing with my boys. And so I talked to Steve Sigler the year that my father died and said, I missed out playing with him. Is there any chance I could put together a father-son division down there? And Steve immediately said yes, and he and Brian participated. And so the rest is history.
That's amazing.
That was the background, yes.
Yeah, and, we've been filming down there since 1998. That was the first year APN started providing our play-by-play videos to the participants. And I know I've talked to you in the past. It's been a long, long time ago. It's probably been 15, 20 years ago. And I think one of the special things about this tournament, we always talk about the camaraderie, especially the guys that have been playing for maybe 5 or at least 5 or 10 years. And it's just so much fun doing these father-son games. I wish we would do more of them. I'm surprised we don't have more people calling for father-son games because, you got that memory forever on videotape. And that sounded like a little commercial there. Sorry about that, but but it totally is.
With you.
Yes, but I really think that it's just one of the special things. The other thing is, now we have a 73 and over division, and I do a lot of work with the South Dakota Rushmores, and these guys, they're all now in their 80s, and they're still playing, and they've been together 20, 25 years now, and it's just so special. It's worth coming out and watching these guys play. I know they're over 70, but I think we got good ball players out there.
They're absolutely great ball players. In fact, I was part of the time. At one time, Steve wasn't going to have a 50 and over division. He said that he didn't think people would play, and I played in a demonstration game in 1992 when I turned 50 to convince him if we could to have a 50 and over division. And I was teammates with most of those guys from South Dakota. And the game was fantastic. It went over well. And since then, it's just continued to grow. There's actually a 75 and older division now, too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think they had it seems like they change it every every year. It goes from 73 to 75, 74. You're watching Swinging for the Fences here on APN Video Sports. Val Lewis, who is the founder of the Father and Son. He's the architect, I would say, of that father-son division. Now, Val, you've also started the Sacramento MSBL. You're a lifetime achievement winner, and you're in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I think the MSBL must really like you. It's been a great ride.
Well, thank you, and it has been a great honor. And I don't know if it has anything to do with my ability, but it has a lot to do with the fact that I showed up early. I got a call from Steve Sigler in 1986. And I immediately joined the national organization. I had to talk to my league like I was blue in the face to get them to agree that we were going to go play a World Series in Phoenix. We did that in 1988, and the rest is history.
It's what is some of the? Do you have one or two really good memories? Because you're one of only 11 people that have actually participated in each and every MSBL World Series.
I've had some fantastic experiences. Let me give you one about the father-son. In fact, I was driving in the car one day, and a newspaper guy called, and he asked me, "What is this father-son thing?" And I explained to him the fathers and the sons play, and we require 4 fathers on the field at all times, and you can't bat more than 2 sons in succession and that kind of thing. And he said, well, I talked to the people at the paper, and they felt that the Sons were going to just dominate this series. And I said, you would think so, but it's not true. And I gave him the directions to Tempe Diablo Stadium, and he watched, and this was early 2000s, he watched a championship game. I still remember, I wasn't there, but I remember him calling me and telling me about it. In center field was a guy by the name of Mike Thatcher, who has been on our team sometimes. And the guy behind the plate is from our local Sacramento League, Steve Welch. There was one out, men on second and third, last of the 9th inning. The guy hit a kind of a little blooper into center field, and Mike Thatcher made it look like he was going to make the catch. So the guy on third tagged up. The guy on second could tell that it was not going to go far enough. He was right. He had run to third. The ball fell in, and they both took off for home. Thatcher threw the ball home. By the way, he's a dad. Steve Welch is a dad. Mm-hmm. And caught the ball, tagged out both guys sliding into home. And this guy called me on the phone. He said, I just saw the most unbelievable thing in my life, and it was 2 dads, a double play to end the game. I'm a believer. It was quite interesting.
I think I've seen that play a couple of times on This Week in Baseball. I think it's happened a couple of times at the major league level, but there's just so many moments out there from just trying to stay healthy. I had Tom Pendergast on here the other day, and we were talking about what it takes to win a championship down there, or at least contend for a World Series title. And I think it starts with pitching. If you had a chance maybe to talk to a new manager, do you have any advice on maybe how to build a team going into Phoenix, Arizona every year?
The advice I would give every team is don't go down with too slim a team. Too many players, they're concerned about playing time, and they go down with 14 guys. And I've seen teams win their first 2 games, and then they get blown out by the time we get to the end of the tournament and the round robin is over. Now they're in the playoffs, and they don't have enough pitching. They don't have enough of everybody. Right. So don't limit the number of players that you have on your team. It will hurt you. Most people that win the tournament has 18 to 22 players on it.
How many pitchers do you think you need minimal?
Well, we like to take as many as we can. If we could get 6, we'd love it. Most times though you only have 4, and so they're doing double duty, and it's tough on them. But we've had a few pitchers from our league anyway that had rubber arms, and we have a lot of ex-pros that played in our league. So I've been really fortunate to see the top people in baseball play, and our league has won, I think it's over 50 national championships in the 32 years that we've been playing.
There's so many, there's so many teams coming out of California too. I mean, you got the Redwood Empire, and the Tri-Valley's a huge.
Yes.
I would say California has to be producing the most leagues and the most players, without a doubt.
Well, and it's kind of the weather is good here, and we're able to play year-round almost, and so we have a little advantage just from a weather standpoint in California. And it doesn't get the hot and humid so that it's hard to play. We're playing, 8-9 months a year. That's why we're successful.
Yeah, let's go back to what it takes maybe to really compete down in Arizona and Phoenix. A lot of managers are saying, I got to have 10 pitchers. And that seems like that's the winning combination nowadays. Back, I think, when I started with the MSBL in '98 with APN Sports and covering the games. You're right. A lot of teams would come down with several pitchers. Now it seems like consistently, at least the championship games I'm covering, they've got double-digit pitching staffs.
Yeah, they do. And that's how you get to the finals. Because once you get into the playoffs, pitching can be really hard after the round robin that you've been through. So pitching is key. Pitching is key.
We're talking to Val Lewis from the Sacramento Men's Senior Baseball League, Hall of Famer. How many championship rings do you have, Val?
I think it's 18. I was a part of the older group that was going through. When I started, I was 46, and I was in that first group of 50 and over, and then the first group in 60 and 65 and 70 and so on. And the result is we had some good teams up here. What's interesting, Jeff, is the first year, 1988, our league formed in 84, and in 1986, a group from Woodland Davis broke off from us because they were driving 30 miles to games. And so they started playing in their own town. And that first year, 1988, the 40 and over division, Sacramento played Woodland Davis for the championship. So all of those guys on the other team had at one time been in our first league that we started. They were a spinoff. We had like 5 major leaguers on that team, and they beat us that first year. And they beat us honestly, too. They had some great hitters. They were running the bases, and we took our hat off to them. They were fantastic. The next 4 years, I believe, we came back and won it 4 years in a row in the 40 division. So, but that first year was really fun. That the two teams playing in that final game were teams from. It started out in the Sacramento League. So,
how many? Who are some of the notable ex-major leaguers that you've played alongside?
Oh goodness, I have a whole bunch of them. In fact, I wrote them down here when you called and said you wanted to talk to me. But I don't know if you know Lowell Palmer, Jim Barr. Ron Brand. Fantastic player. Don Carruthers, Butch Metzger, Jim Willoughby, Mike Epstein.
Mike
he
Epstein.
Didn't play in our league, but he's a good friend of mine, and he has come down. We played together at Cal a little bit. And Jeff Chandler, who was a AAA pitcher, but he was very good. My favorite, and I shouldn't call him a favorite, but one of my most fun guys that played in our league was Louis Tiant. And first time I faced Louis, I got a base hit in the left center field. And he turned to me and he wagged his finger at me and he says, "No mas, no mas." Big smile on his face. The next time up, I went 3-2 on him, and he threw a pitch that I didn't think had a chance to be in the strike zone, and that ball seemed to break about 2 feet. Called me out on strikes, and it was a good pitch, but when he released that ball, it wasn't anywhere near gonna get into the strike zone, but it did, and so his no moss worked.
He was a tremendous pitcher. He's one of those, I guess you'd call a borderline Hall of Famer.
Yes.
And being a Cincinnati Reds fan growing up in the Midwest, you know, he really did a number in that 75 game one. I believe he went all the way. It was a 6-0 victory for Boston.
Right.
Of course, Boston lost that series 4-3, but yeah, Louis Tiant, one of my favorites because he had one of the most unique deliveries. I mean, he turned his back completely to home plate, and a little a la Fernando Valenzuela, kind of similar. And so when you faced him, did he still have that same quirky delivery?
He had the same delivery. He didn't have the same fastball. he threw close to 100 miles an hour when he was a kid. And of course, this was in 1991 or so.
Wow.
And he didn't have that stuff, but he still could break off a pitch. And the thing about ex-major league pitchers is they got perfect control. They can set you up for you to do nothing against them because they're pinpoint control. Jim Barr was I still remember our manager going out to talk to him. We were in the last inning that we had, I think, bases loaded. We were up by 1. There was 1 out. Went out to talk to Jim, and they pulled the infielders in. And Jim told the shortstop, he says, "First pitch, I'm gonna knock him off the plate, and then I'm gonna give him one down by the knees on the outside. And he's gonna hit a ground ball to you, and I want you, the second baseman, to turn 2." It happened. The manager came in and told us what he said. Happened just like he said. He blew the guy back. The next pitch was down, and the guy hit a 3-hopper to short, second, first, double play.
How about that?
And that was the semifinal game. We got into the championship game right after that. So they are amazing. Those ex-major leaguers are amazing guys.
Did you have a chance? 5 years ago, they had the MSBL invited Roger Clemens and Oil Can Boyd, and they had a big game at Tempe Diablo Stadium. And did you get a chance to see that game, or did you get to see Roger pitch at all?
I didn't. I have seen Canseco play when he was coming down, but I didn't see that game, no.
Yeah, it was amazing because, you know, Roger, who was, I got to tell you, he was very ingratiating. He was very nice. I interviewed him twice, and he just was. It was such a positive experience, and you know, I know he's still trying to get into the Hall of Fame, and you know, and I think he probably should be. I mean, I know there's some controversy there, but I think he was a great pitcher. I think he would have put up Hall of Fame numbers even if he hadn't done what he had done, without bringing all that up. But
and I agree with you. Pete Rose is another one that I think earned it, even though he did some things he shouldn't have done. He still was a ball player that deserves it.
Well, and I for years I said I think he blew it, but now that it's been 26 years, you know, I think there is a thing called forgiveness, and I think a lot of people in this country are going through some of that lack of forgiveness right now. I think that's why this country's in a little trouble now. We're not going to talk politics, but we need a little bit more forgiveness, and I think he's paid his time and well served, and yeah, let him in, definitely. Yes. But you know, you were talking about the ex-major leaguers, how consistent their delivery, and that was the one thing I noticed with Roger. It doesn't matter what he throws; it's the same delivery. And I mean, even at age, I think he was 53 at the time, it just was amazing. And he was throwing about 85, topping out about 85, 86. But that consistency, that separates the pros from the not so.
It does. They paint the black consistently, and hitting the ball down the middle of the plate is way easier than hitting it on the black. And they're never hardly in the middle of the plate. If you're going to bat against those guys, they're always on the edge, and they're very tough. A couple other guys that I missed when I was mentioned, Bob Oliver I played with him when we were teenagers, and he went on for a pretty good career, and his son Darren, of course, had a good career with the Yankees. Darren Oliver, if you remember him, left-handed.
Left-hander.
And the Lee brothers, Leon and Leron Lee, they were Sacramento boys that hit the ball a ton. I think Leron hit a 440-foot home run down in the MSBL World Series one day. So those are all great players. Loved being around them. They were the nicest guys. Nobody had a big head. They're great teammates. I still remember Jim Barr coming in off the mound and laughed like crazy. We had a big jug of ice water there that everybody was getting drinks out of and so on. But between innings, he would stick his arm into that ice jug to cool it off. And nobody noticed it. They were still going over there even after between innings, drinking out of that ice jug, or the water jug.
That's amazing. Well, I guess there was no COVID-19 back then, so. Well, I'm with Val Lewis of the Sacramento Men's Senior Baseball League. We're just talking baseball, and we're talking about the Men's Senior Baseball League. And one of the things, well, first off, have you talked to Jim Barr lately? I mean, this was a guy who had a standout career, mainly with the San Francisco Giants, and a lot of people forget how good he was.
Yeah, the record that he retired 41 consecutive batters over 2 games, and that stood for years and years. I think somebody a few years ago, over a 3-game period or 4, broke that record, but he held that record for a long time, and that's basically like throwing a game and a half of perfect ball, 41 consecutive outs. But anyway, I see him at our Hall of Fame things that we hold every year. He used to be our vice president in the league when I was the president, and so I've worked with him very closely over all of the years. Wonderful, wonderful man.
Yeah, I've actually filmed him a couple of times. It's been a while. Had to have been back in the late 90s with a Sacramento team. Now, you're with this. Are you with the Solons this year?
Yes, I am. Yes, that was a team we started in 1993 when we were in the 50-year-old bracket. And over those years, the Sacramento Solons was a Pacific Coast League AAA team when we were kids in 1950. Going out and watching these guys play, we took that name on, and we've played as the Solons for the last 30 years or so.
Well, I know you guys have played the Rushmores a few times in some big games. In fact, I think we filmed a championship game, I'm going to say maybe 5 years ago, and you beat them. But it was a good game. It was great competition. It's
always a good game, and they've beaten us. We've been on the losing end of that team too. They're all great guys. That's what the thing that makes MSBL so wonderful is we go down and see guys we've known for 30 years and they're still playing. It's really fantastic.
Do you play? I know you want to play. I know you want to play the game, but is the camaraderie? How much does that play into you coming back year after year?
I would say that's why we do it, and that's why I do it, because, in fact, one of the guys on our team, Irv Scott, he and I played in the first Little League in Sacramento. We went out this morning and practiced on a field that we played our home games on in 1952 in our Little League.
Really?
So here we are 70 years later almost, and we're still playing ball together. So it means a lot to us. It really does.
That's incredible. I mean, that you've got to be so grateful. I mean, to be able to do this. There's a lot of people that are in their 30s and 40s who couldn't throw a ball 90 feet. if to save their life, and yet here you are doing it now, and then having an experience like that with your friend. It's just got to be tremendous.
It is tremendous, and over the years, they've all become family to us, really. I mean, I've been doing this for 32 solid years, and for the most part, it's always the same guys that I play with. And had some other interesting experiences, though, with MSBL. I traveled with the team to the Dominican Republic, was a teammate with Minnie Minoso, if you remember that name.
I do, yes.
And Juan Marichal threw out a first pitch. I mean, we met Cesar Geronimo, played center field for the other team. The following year, we took a team to Holland and played baseball on some of the nicest fields I've ever been on. They rival everything down in Phoenix, because everything is so manicured. It's a very flat country, by the way. And so had some wonderful experiences all along in all the years that I've been doing this.
Well, that brings me up to another question. Let's talk about those stadiums. I mean, you are
For the most part, you don't worry about bad hops. And can't say that about all the fields that we play on during the year. There's a number of bad hops out there, but we don't have them down in Phoenix. The fields are just immaculate.
They really are, and it's such a pleasure to get a chance. You get to play, I get to commentate. We do the production, and it's it truly is. It's I think it's probably better than a fantasy camp. Have you attended any of those?
Well, interesting that you mentioned that, Jeff. The reason I started the 1984 Men's Senior Baseball League in Sacramento is I told my wife, because I got a mailer that there was a Dodger fantasy camp, and I said I wanted to go for a week down to Florida and play for a week, because I've been coaching all of my life with our boys and stuff. And she said, "How much is it going to cost?" And I said, I tried to mumble the $4,000 in those days. And she says, "Why don't you start a league?" And that was what happened. And since my little brother played in the Little League World Series, we had a guy in the local newspaper that followed them very closely, went all the way back to Williamsport with them, and actually went with them to Gary, Indiana when they won the national title. So I called him up and told him, "Hey, I'd like to start a hardball league of old guys, wood bats, the whole bit." He put a big story in the paper. We met. We had about 20 guys show up at a pizza place. We formed 4 teams right then, and then we all went out and recruited other players. And next thing you know, we have a 4-team league that has now grown to, we have over 1,000 players in our league now. It's just incredible. We have our own complex. We have a 2-field complex that's just unbelievable.
How about that?
That's what's developed over the years. It's been fantastic.
Well, Steve Sigler, who founded the MSBL, kind of a similar story with him back in Long Island. Mm-hmm. They put an ad in the paper. Yeah.
Right. And when he heard about our league, I joined. I said, we will come to the World Series. All you need to do is, and we became family on that first phone call. I felt I just said he was doing what I always wanted to do, and he and his family are family to me. They really are.
He has done. I told Tom this, Prendergast, when he was on. I think the thing I like about Steve the most is that he had a vision. He tried to do something that probably most people said it'll never fly. Yeah, these guys are too old. They'd rather play slow pitch softball. It's easier. And he's like, no, don't go soft. Play hardball. And so the rest is, as they say, history.
It is, and and I've been around him now for 30 plus years, and I don't think there's anybody I know that could have pulled this off. Steve he knew what he wanted to do. He did it. And I got to be on his board, but I mean, I just marveled at everything he was doing to promote this thing. And he basically became the model. There's a few knockoff leagues around the country right now that started because they saw the success of the Men's Senior Baseball League.
You know, one of the other things that I wanted to bring up is we were talking about, bringing all these pitchers down. And you said, well, we have some guys that have what you call a rubber arm. And I don't know if most people know what a rubber arm, that means you can go out with little rest, back-to-back days, throw a lot of innings. And a friend of mine, Ken Foreman, I don't know if you know Ken, he had some injuries the last couple of years, but we were talking about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was probably in his late 50s at the time, and Ken was throwing – he played like 4 weeks, and I know my numbers are off, but he threw like 65 innings in 4 weeks. If you projected that over 162 games, the guy would have had like Wilbur Wood type innings pitched, 360 innings. Of course, he'd be dead by that point, but but it's amazing. I mean, these stories. We did a championship for a South Bay team a few years ago, and a guy named Pete Cesario threw 22 innings inside of a 24-hour time period, quarterfinal, semifinal, and then pitched 9 or 10 innings in the finals, and the guy's 59, 60 years old. I don't know how you guys do it. I just think it's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
It is amazing. It would have never happened had Steve not started this whole thing. And it's just absolutely amazing to see what has developed from that early beginning.
Hey, growing up, what was your favorite team? Maybe some of the players you might have tried to emulate, or who you followed back in your childhood?
Well, of course, the 1950s, I admired the New York Yankees, of course. and Mickey Mantle, I figured he would have been the greatest player of all time if he could have avoided injury and maybe been sober a little bit more.
Yeah.
That guy could do everything, switch hitter, didn't matter which side of the plate, he hit the ball out. In fact, somebody said, Mickey, they asked him a question, Mickey, how many times do you go up there thinking you're going to hit a home run? And he says, every time. That was the way he was. That's the way he played. He said, every time I go up there, I expect to hit a home run. But he was a great player. And, of course, I followed all kinds of guys from the Pacific Coast League by being a Solon fan.
Yes.
Saw Juan Marichal before he went up to the big leagues. I saw Willie McCovey before he went up to the big leagues, and then followed them through their Giant career too. And so they're just that my life has been just full of baseball from as far as I can remember. My dad was pitching to us when we were 3 or 4 years old, and pitching overhand. He never threw an underhand pitch to us.
Yep.
And he was the thing that got us to love this game. It's fantastic.
How did he make it to the professional ranks? I know he was a barnstormer.
Yeah, well, because he made money doing that for 2 years, he was called a professional. And
okay.
In fact, my understanding is the team took up in the 30s, that was, during the Depression, they got some money and sent him to California to try out, because he was a good player. In fact, my uncles, his uncles actually came down and watched my brother and I play one time, and they said, you kids are pretty good, but you're not even close to your dad. So I always wanted to be a teammate with my dad. He coached us through years and years, but I never thought of it. He's the one that taught us the game.
Yeah.
Why not have us be teammates? And that's when I got this thing that when he was getting close to dying, that I said, I never got to do that. My kids are not going to ever say I didn't have a chance to play with my dad. And most of my grandchildren sons have played with me too.
It's tremendous. You know, you mentioned the Pacific Coast Baseball League, or Pacific Coast League, and I had this discussion, and I'm not sure. It must have been when I was up doing the Oakland games, or they used to do the day at the show at San Francisco. And I can't remember who I was talking to, but they said, I guess their dad or maybe someone older told them that a lot of those teams back in the day, of course, Joe DiMaggio came out of that league, would have beaten many of the major league teams. They were better than the majors. Did your dad ever say anything about that?
Oh, yeah. And I got to see, like I said, my dad played one game, and he just showed me that he had all the tools. I mean, he could run. If he hadn't pulled that hamstring, I would have gotten to see him play a whole lot more. But he crawled into third and said, "That's it." So it was but he taught us the game and spent time with us all the time doing this.
You guys, have you guys opened up yet?
You know, we haven't. There's a meeting going to be held on Thursday that will determine when we're going to start. We have a number of divisions. Okay. And of course, now that I'm in my upper 70s, I play in the 60 and over division, and we're going to start, I understand, mid-July. I think some of the younger guys may start a little earlier in July. I'm not sure. Okay. But it's on our website if you ever get a chance to go see it. smsbl.com, I think it is.
Okay. Because a lot of times we'll direct people if they're interested. In fact, we've got a graphic that we can put up there. If you have an interest of playing adult baseball, you can go to the MSBLnational.com. Give us your website one more time.
Well, again, I'm kind of memorizing this, and I hope it's correct, but SMSBL is Sacramento Men's Senior Baseball League. Okay. And it's smsbl.com.
Okay.
That's what I recall it is. If I'm wrong, I apologize.
No, I think you're right. I think I've seen that before. Well, we're talking to Val Lewis, the gentleman who he's done it all. He's won 18 titles at the Senior Men's Baseball World Series right here in Phoenix, Arizona. That's where we're coming to you from. You're watching APN Video Sports, and this has been a great conversation. You said you were on a Nike team. Do you want to talk about that for just a second? That had to be a thing of pride for you.
It was. In fact, in 1998, Nike contacted Steve Sigler and said, we want the MSBL to run a senior world games for baseball, because I don't think they'd ever had it before. So Steve lined up a number of teams around the nation to show up in Oregon to play in this Nike World Tournament. It was the best team I've ever been on. We had about 5 ex-professionals. Most of them were ex-major league players. And it was an absolute... a lot of the players came from Southern California, from San Jose, from Sacramento. And it was a fantastic team. We ended up having a couple of close games, but we won that title. I mainly was a coach on that team. Okay. It was a 40 and over, and in '98 I was 56 years old, so I got a couple of at-bats. But I mean, this team was the best team I've ever been a part of as a big team.
How about that? Well, Val, thank you so much for coming on the show, and it's just been a pleasure talking with you. I'm sorry that it's been probably 15 or 20 years since I, talked to you. I know we talked at Tempe Diablo Stadium once about the father and son, but that was back in probably 1998, and just a pleasure. I know you're a great baseball fan, and we hope to see you down there in the Valley of the Sun come October.
And you will. The only time I'm not going to show up, I'm guessing, is when I can't. They'll be carrying me in a casket somewhere. But yeah, if I'm still kicking, I'm going to be there and hopefully being on a team of one sort or another.
Well,
So,
you are one, and I keep repeating this one, 11 people that have been to all 32 MSBL World Series. I think that's something special, and congratulations. We're given the dates of the World Series. It's October 18th through November 7th. The league is ready to go, barring a second wave, which I don't think will happen, but we're going to have baseball in Phoenix in October, one way or the other.
Looking forward to it, really am. Thank you, Jeff. I've really appreciated talking with you today.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and that's going to do it for this edition of Swingin' for the Fences, brought to you by apmvideo.com and APM Video Sports. If you're heading to the World Series, go to our website at apmvideo.com for more. You can get your game recorded, professional play-by-play. We do a little ESPN-like opening, interviews with coaches and players or whoever else will talk to us. It's a great keepsake, and we hope that you'll keep us in mind when you come down. So for Val Lewis, this is Jeff Lowery saying so long from Phoenix, Arizona for Swingin' for the Fences. Go soft, play hardball with the Men's Senior Baseball League. For more information on the 2020 Men's Senior Baseball League World Series or any other tournament, go to MSBLNational.com. Reserve any game on video with APN's play-by-play videos. Our videos include complete game coverage in high definition, exciting and professional play-by-play commentary. And here's a line shot. The shortstop's got it. He throws to second. That's a double play. An ESPN-like pregame. And a pleasant good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to Sloan Park in Mesa. Plus, interviews with coaches and players. It's a must for your video library. Live streaming your team's games is now available. Go to apnvideo.com for more. Go to APN Video to reserve any 2020